Okay, so good afternoon. Welcome again to Sunny Irabo Live and the third and final discussion on emotional issues. I chose not to use intelligence today because there are two experts of intelligence here. They've been dealing with human minds, but there's a medical doctor that deals more with human physiology, the mind, spirituality. Of course, there's Dr. Ambrose Opara was already there. And then, of course, I call her Fishers of Men. She's not Jesus, so before I can't say I blaspheme. Bimbo Oloyede, but she knows how to talk to people. She knows how to make them develop their own self-esteem to the point of, reassurance. And, of course, Dr. Patrick Ijewere, our man. I managed to beg him to, in fact, I begged the wife, not him, to get him to stay on so that we can really discuss the whole issue. We are waiting for Nkemdilim Ituludiegwu. So she's going to be one of us as well. I think she's stuck in some dependence on either her driver or traffic. But anyway, when she comes, she will join us. Anyway, so here we are. Queenette Enilama is here with us. Abiola Salami, Dr. Abiola Salami is here with us. Dr. Ambrose Opara is here with us. I think I should be calling Bimbo Oloyede doctor by now because the woman don't sabi this thing for so many years. Dr. Bimbo Oloyede, she's here with us in the Zoom. So is Dr. Ambrose Opara Zoom. And then, of course, Dr. Abiola Salami. So, now, welcome all of you. And how do we now start? I think I should start with the studio people first. Doctor, let me start with you because I'm looking at the physiology of it. And I borrowed this word last week from Dr. Bimbo Oloyede, who when she eventually speaks, she's going to say, Mr. Irabo, stop all that. Let's put them back on the Zoom, repercussion. Right. Hello. So, Bimbo, are you there? Good morning. Good afternoon. Say something.
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm here.
Hallelujah. We got it all right this time. Fantastical. All right. So, Dr. Patrick Ijewere, thank you for staying with us because yours is Wellness Half Hour from 1 p.m. to 1:30, and we dragged you. Please, let's look at the human mind. How does medicine come in before we talk about any other thing?
The human mind.
Yes.
How does medicine come in? If you're asking from a conventional medical perspective, what we are most familiar with, then we see the mind as this strange entity, and we try and tinker with chemicals.
Recording in progress.
We try and tinker with chemical formulations or chemical preparations to see how we can get certain responses from the mind. But if you come from a more holistic wellness perspective, you start by saying the mind is a perfect entity in how it relates to the entire body.
Okay.
There's a non-stop unending communication.
Okay.
What occurs in the mind literally triggers certain, call them neurotransmitters, hormones, or some communication into the body. Now you want to go a step further. The mind operates with what's going on in the gut, what we call the gut-brain axis. But that's a deeper discussion.
When you say gut, it's interesting. The intestine,
The
big
gut.
and small, stomach, all of those ones, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Hey. It's getting more complicated. All right, so fine. Let me now get from you the whole, you see, because the human mind is so uniquely different from every other thing. They say the human being is the super living organism. It has all the senses, sense of smell, sense of feel, sense of touch, and all of that. Okay, so if somebody wants to now you want to say, you also say we should fast. Why do you have to ask us to fast when pastors also ask us to fast? Doctors.
Several perspectives. One, just by fasting, you allow more attunement or connection with the higher self. By minimizing the distraction from the lower self, the physical self, you allow more exploration into the higher potential of the mind-body relationship, especially the spiritual self.
Mind-body relationship.
Let's keep it simple. The spiritual self.
Okay.
Fasting allows you to explore into the higher possibilities of the body, spirit, mind.
Okay.
You can also fast for deliberate physiological benefits such as improving health of the liver, health of the gut, digestion, absorption, and those things. But I think in our context of discussion today, we're looking at fasting as a means to explore our higher inner mind, spirit, person.
Dr. Ambrose Opara, how are you, sir? This is where you come in. You unmute yourself, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. You heard this talk about fasting and the higher self, the spiritual mind. That's why I brought you in right away. What do you have to say about that?
Yes. The man is made up of three beings: the spirit, the soul, and the body.
Man is
the soul.
Three beings: soul, spirit, and body.
The spirit
and body.
The soul and the body.
Okay.
The spirit man is a higher being, just like the last speaker said. The soul is our seat of emotion. It's where we take our decisions physically. And the body carries two of these.
Okay.
So when we fast, we are actually building the spirit man to tune it to be in line with the higher being.
Okay. Okay. All right. Fine. Good. Mrs. Oloyede, how are you? Today now your day too.
I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. When do you see, when you are lecturing people, you are talking to them, when do you now see them? Do you perceive anything about them that shows, say, for example, discomfiture?
That shows
discomfiture. It's not easy.
Oh.
It's not.
Oh yes.
He's not feeling comfortable with himself. His emotions are awry. Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's interesting actually because you can see telltale signs.
Yes.
Physical telltale signs that many of them are unconscious about.
Okay.
For instance, somebody who is quite nervous could shake his leg. I mean, the leg is because I remember somebody who was talking, presenting a speech,
yes.
And his leg was constantly shaking, and I had to get up from my seat and go and hold his leg before he realized that this was one of these unconscious
behavior,
physical actions.
Okay.
Yes. So that is one. Sometimes your hands, in fact, your body too, can shake. When you're nervous and you're standing on a stage and the idea of facing a crowd, you become physically destabilized. So sometimes your hands shake, your knees might shake. At times, your voice could your vocal cords could constrict. And occasionally, I have come across some people who opened their mouths to speak and no sound came out. So the mind, especially the subconscious mind, plays a lot of tricks on one.
Okay. Because of the phrase you used, plays a lot of tricks on one. Before Dr. Ejewere's program finished, I asked him a question about the shaking of the legs. So, Doctor, from what Mrs. Oloyede has said now, I'd like you to respond to that.
Yes. Sami was sharing with us a scenario where someone was speaking, to an audience, and the legs began to shake. This is uncontrollably. This is someone who that doesn't occur to usually. There are some people who subconsciously begin to have a tremor. Their legs begin to shake while they are already in any kind of discussion. They just start to do it. It's become a norm for them, and they don't even know it is occurring.
Okay. All right. The emotional intelligence people are finally here. Madam Queenette, what do you have to say there? And Dr. Salami. Madam Kem, you're welcome. I'll talk to you very soon, please. Yes. All right, Queenette.
Okay. I would take off from what the other speaker said. We're talking about the
shaking leg or the spirit one?
The spirit and shaking legs. Okay. Well, I mean, like he said initially, your soul is the seat of your soul is the seat of your emotions. And when these things happen, it comes from a place. So you're shaking your leg unconsciously or consciously. Sometimes I think in studying myself and other people, I would say that when you become aware of certain things, you know how to handle them. So for me, if I'm in a state, I notice that my tummy begins to rumble. When you talked about your gut, your mind and your gut, yes. When you're anxious or you're nervous, some people, you might just see yourself going to pee uncontrollably. Ooh. Yes, it happens. That's where you hear people say, I have butterflies in my tummy. It's because, something is happening to you on the inside. But, we really don't take time to study ourselves and to know who we are and the things that happen to us. So when we hear these things, sometimes we're like, but it does happen. If you take the time to just understand yourself, self-awareness, you would know.
You wrote a book on emotional... No, what was that? What was it?
The magic of emotional intelligence.
The magic. What is the magic?
The magic begins with consciousness, self-awareness. And when we are aware, it gives us the power to manage ourselves effectively. You see, this conversation we're having about leg shaking has happened to me. Thankfully, as a very small boy in primary school. And it happened to me when I would raise my hand just in church in the morning. The pastor would ask on the Sunday that who has a testimony. Without having anything to say, really.
You just raise your hand.
I would just see my hand up. I would just see my hand up. And when my hand goes up, I start hearing some whispers, colloquially and humorously, we say village people. Just have some whispers that, so you're about to disgrace yourself this morning. See, your siblings are in church. Your parents are in church. You know that girl? She's also in church. So you will go to the front now. You don't even have anything to say, but you want to disgrace yourself. But I won't listen to that voice. I will stand up and go out. When I stand up, of course, everybody will clap for me to between my seat and where I will stand in front. But that conversation is going on while they are clapping. They don't know, but that conversation is going on. When I get to the front, still shaking and trembling because of stage fright. It is said that after the fear of death, the other thing people fear the most is the fear of public speaking. and so shaking, and I would say I want to thank God for my parents, my siblings.
So you're improvising here.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to do right now. That. And when I finish, I will say, praise the Lord. Everybody will say, hallelujah. And then they will clap for me. I will go back to the seat. On my way to my seat, those village people will show up again with whispers that, see, you have disgraced yourself. Your tenses were wrong. You were not conscious and all of that going on. But what I found is that with consistent practice, I outgrew that stage fright such that anywhere in the world today that I stand, even if I'm shaking, the shaking is only internal. Nobody sees, that I'm shaking. That is my experience, and that's the power of emotional intelligence.
All right. You see, I have a confession to make. When I asked Dr. Patrick Ijewere earlier today why anybody speaking his leg is shaking, it was me, because my colleague, the man who exposed me, let me just share some experiences with you. Okay, I'm coming to you next. I used to observe him as he was my chief announcer, so to speak. So I observed him, and at news at midnight after the training, we were not supposed to, say anything until after 3 months of observation. So there was Jones Hussein, and this midnight, it feigned stomach upset. He had started reading the news and now said, "Okay, Sonny, you finish the news." He put the microphone off. "Sonny, finish the news. I'm feeling pain in my stomach," and what am I supposed to do? Anyway, no dead air, as we say. There was I, picked the news and saw where he read it and up to. Then I continued with the next story, and I didn't hear the sound of my voice, even though he said he heard it. And eventually, I finished the news like 2 minutes later. And he said I should sign off. I had never done anything like that before. But anyway, I ended up doing it. So yesterday, I gave this story and I started talking and my leg was shaking, as if I was remembering what happened about 50 years ago or something like that. So, and I had to take permission. I said, "Please, I'm in recovery. Can I just sit down so I can finish my speech?" Because they made me, without preparation, they made me the chairman of the occasion. And so, anyway, cut a long story short, I sat down and my voice did not change. But my physiological appearance was in disarray, which is where, all right, Nkem, yours is healing. We're laying foundation towards it. But let me quickly go back to Bimbo Oloyede and Dr. Ambrose before I come back to you. What happens when you are shattered like that, Bimbo? Bimbo.
What happens physically, or what happens in your mind?
In the mind. It's more like in the mind, actually. Yes.
In your mind. What happens basically, I think, is that people draw a blank. And when there is that darkness, then you begin to panic. It is the panic, I believe, that causes the vocal cords to just, shut down sometimes. Sometimes you get sweaty palms. At times, some people even feel dizzy. Some as far as wanting to throw up. It's at that point, it seems to have left just being a fear or anxiety, and it's kind of moving towards being a phobia, which is really all encompassing. So I think the fear is what triggers off that darkness, that fear. Nothingness. Fear. And everything that you have prepared, if you have prepared, just goes completely out of your head. But for some people it's momentary. It just happens for a few seconds and then they can snap back into themselves. But for others, if they are not experienced, then it shuts them down. It shuts them down, and it's a very, very uncomfortable kind of feeling.
Okay, now, Dr. Ambrose, how do you begin to see yourself as committing all kinds of atrocious sins, as it were, because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, or you're really dealing with yourself as having done the wrong thing because you think people are watching you and they're not capturing what you believe you are giving out? Is my question clear enough? Yes, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. Your question is not clear enough, but I will try to answer.
Okay.
First, every human being has this fear in him, and it's not a bad thing, actually, because it puts you in a safety mode.
Safety mode. Can you explain that?
Safety
please?
mode, yes.
Yes.
Good. Because when that fear comes, you really don't know what to do. You now hide in your shell to see how you can overcome it. Sometimes you like Mrs. Oloyede said, you just shut down. Sometimes you just look inward at yourself and say, look, I can do it. So you need to encourage yourself to say, I can do it. And once you are able to do that, then you will overcome it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Nkem, here we are. You are the protagonist of the prime mover of this whole topic. We started 3 editions ago. Thank you for coming. Emotional intelligence, emotional issues, and then forgiveness, forgetfulness, or forgetting the matter, and then eventually saying, okay, I'm not afraid, but there is fear. And as Queenette said, butterfly day by my belly, plenty one for that matter. How do you manage expectations vis-a-vis fear, forgiveness, and healing? People, the modern nomenclature say you put a closure to the matter, right? How do you put a closure?
Fear, forgiveness, healing. First of all, thank you for being patient with me. I arrived quite late. I'm so sorry to my
No, it's okay. We forgive you.
Presenters, I'm really
That's why
sorry.
I couldn't come last week. So we are glad you are here today.
Sir.
So.
I would always say I speak from my own personal experience, but I still recognize that everybody's different. When I see a word fear, or I think of the meaning of it, obviously I know that the person has lost control of the environment or their emotions at a particular point of time. But with God's grace, I go back to spirituality, you can get back on track. For me personally, I try to eliminate certain words that pose the threat to me in the past. And these words are fear, temptation, and irresponsibility. It's like when you talk about death, the fear of death, the anticipation of death is worse than death itself. Fear alone, I cease to recognize it personally. The only fear that I'm concerned about is the fear of God. I know that people have various weaknesses, and I do as well. But I'm tired of looking at the problems. I always look at the solutions. Okay. So I'm not going to dwell on the problems and how fear comes about. But if you talk about communication science, we're talking about the Johari window. And we're talking about the fear of the unknown. What people know about you, you don't know about yourself. What you know about yourself, others don't know about you. There's another window that you don't even know, and others don't know about you. All that also leads to fear. But I would say, if we're focused on the solution and focused on the fear that's the most important, which is the reverence of God, that should help us, guide us, that in any situation and in every situation, be it emotional challenges, business challenges, relationship challenges, we should try our best to not get distracted by that.
So this whole idea of what will people say about
it don't matter.
Really?
I talked about my mom. We lost my mom a few weeks ago. She appeared to my dad, let me call it 4 weeks ago, and she said to him, first of all, he was turned from the position he was sleeping in. My dad is a military man, has a specific way of sleeping, and he found himself upside down. So he screamed. Everybody ran out of the room. It was like 3 a.m. in the morning. And he says, I come with a message from your mom. You, Nkem, do not care what anybody thinks or says. And I know she's saying this because, she knew that I was planning to come on air in the media, but radio and TV, but she knew that being introverted, she felt my fear of being introverted will never make me come out.
Okay, so
she's giving that advice, regardless of what people think or say, go and do what you want to do. I was shocked. And Daddy doesn't even know the conversation we had a week before she left us to heaven.
Okay.
But to me, it was only Mommy that would say that would make me say, okay, take that final bold step and come on air and just do what you have to do. But she knows I'm a very spiritual person, and she knows that I have already worked so hard over the years to eliminate those fears that made me or prevented me from doing things in the last 20, 30 years of my life. Because I was too conscious and too sensitive, which is the mother that I have, to a fault that I use it to suppress my own desires and dreams. So that's why I keep focusing on. The focal point is God. I'm on a stage, I want to make a speech, I pick a certain spot. It could be Inspiration FM, and the dot on top of the I is all I'm looking at. in the physical, but in the spiritual, I've left the earth.
Okay.
I'm now before God, and now I'm getting the message, what he's saying in my ear. What he says to me is what I speak. If I'm not convinced in the spirit or hear him, Uncle Sonny, I can't speak. So you could even ask me a question. As much as I'm engaged in this conversation, I won't answer you. I become mute.
Okay.
Because I haven't gotten that. Yes.
All right, I'm going to get to emotional.
That helps me eliminate the fears that I have.
Right.
Yeah.
Intelligence comes in here. Queenette.
So,
Intelligence. Emotional intelligence. She talked about blank it out. That's what it is. Focus on the spot. Yeah? Okay. Let's hear you.
okay, so over the years, I have said that I think that emotional intelligence, in the first place, we ever saw it, but we didn't have the words for it. It was in the Bible, actually. Right, but we just did not. I'm sure back in the day they didn't have the words for it, and I agree with her that sometimes you have to have a superior belief system so that you can shut down certain things. So just like the good book we read says, every word that does not come, that you're not comfortable with, if the word is coming to you and it's going to affect you, now bring a superior belief system to suppress that word.
Superior
Belief system to suppress that word. So, for example, fear, like everybody says, fear, the purpose of fear is not to get you riled up or get you anxious. It's to make you aware. Yes, fear is not, it's a natural emotion. God gave it to all of us. It's a natural biological human emotion. It's supposed to bring you to a place of awareness. Now, if something is wrong, fear is telling you, Queenette, are you going to run? Are you going to fight? What are you going to do? Now, it is up to me to decide what I am going to do, because fear is bringing an information to me.
Fear, false evidence appearing real. Dr. Abiola?
Yes.
You heard what your colleague just said?
Yes.
Okay. How does that really create a self-belief in me that I cannot... okay, somebody like Dr. Ambrose would say, forget that fear. Go and face your matter, Jare. Go and talk to the world. Yes.
So some people would say fear is false evidence appearing real. Some people will say face everything. I don't remember the AR. Just face everything. That
face everything.
Yes, I don't remember what the A and R is, but I'm good with the F and A. Saying face everything. The feeling, the place where emotional intelligence comes in, is not that I will not feel fear. It's not that I will not feel angry. It's that I will not feel sad. It's not also that I will not feel excited, because many times when we're having this conversation, we think it's only about what some people describe as negative emotions. It is on both sides that we are able to manage, whether it is or excitement, so we don't just jump into third Milan because we're too excited about the success.
Or now you brought another aspect.
Okay. Or that, so there's something negative and then it doesn't hold us back from performing. So the key thing is that even when we feel fear, that we need to have developed ourselves such that even when the feeling of fear comes, it doesn't hold us back from doing what we are meant to do. The way I describe it, it doesn't hold us back from delivering peak performance.
Okay, we'll come to that peak performance soon. There are 100 of them, right? Dr. Ijewere, I'll soon let you go. But now, he brought another issue that is very vital. Because lately, we have seen a lot of people daring to take their lives, even though the good book says it is not normal to want to take one's life. The law, constitution, they also write a lot against it. So where is the closure there? Why should anybody want to take his life, Dr. Patrick Ijewere?
Uncle Sonny, there's really no closure when we take that step to avoid dealing with the issue, the fear, the events, or the perceived end of my life because I've not able to meet this expectation, or because I can't see anything ahead of me. There's really no closure. When Abiola was talking about fear, face everything, one of the things I was taught in my days of training to overcome public speaking
You too?
Uncle Sonny, I was a massive stammerer in primary and secondary school.
Whoa.
And my classmates, they laugh at me plenty when teacher can't read this page. So I actually took a course in public speaking.
Wow.
Deliberately. One of the things we were taught is always have some tools within you to deal with fear. I mean, you can decide just to take a couple deep breaths, you can decide to have a joke or tell a story or something quickly to respond to the fear. And in doing so, you're allowing your higher self to program what you should really do to deal with the fear. Have a distraction or with fear. Things will come that way. You don't understand that would suddenly jolt you. But have that store of things to quickly use while you're planning, whether it's your run or other things to do when in the face of that fear.
I'm so glad that I got all of you. The caliber of people I brought to this program is really good. It's exciting me. Doctor, I know I will have to release you. I know that. No problem. But Dr. Ambrose Opara, face it, take it or leave it. That's what some people would want to say. But you always use the good book, to try to give us self-assurance. Take it from there, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
The word of God says we should not fear. And why is that so? Because we have a hope in God. If you have a hope in God and you know that He has your back, then you don't have any reason to fear anything. Now, fear comes in different forms, like the other speaker said. It could be the fear of something you want to do. It could be the fear of the unknown. It could be the fear of somebody you see the high esteem, and you are before him, not because you are scared, but because you cannot speak before him. But you have to face your fears. Go headlong with it, knowing that that is not the end of the world. And if you're able to face it, knowing that God is behind you, then you can come out of it. And then you come out of it clean.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dr. Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede. You allow me to call you doctor today. I'm happy. Now, if you look at a human being who has a lot to say, but hasn't the capacity or ability to say it, and the person who sees it will see you and just get enough confidence. I see a lot of that in children and their parents. What do you have to say about that? If I see Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede, my trainer, I feel comfortable, I'll be strong enough, I'm confident enough to say what I want to say when I want to say it. Go ahead.
Well, yes, because you are seeing somebody that is familiar. So the confidence that you have at that moment in time is not self-confidence, but confidence in the person that has trained you, or confidence in your parents, because they are there to support you, and that gives you that extra courage that you need to do what it is that you're supposed to do at that time. It has already been mentioned that we are afraid of the unknown. So if, for instance, you're in a room or you're in a hall and you don't know anybody there, that fear could be there because there are no familiar faces. But as soon as you see one, even just one person that you recognize in the audience, suddenly you begin to calm down and you begin to think to yourself, well, okay, at least I can speak to this person and this person will respond. And everything kind of begins to fall in place after that. So it's a question of being afraid of what you don't know and the situation that you find yourself in, versus being afraid but seeing people that you recognize who can give you that extra courage and strength.
Okay, Nkem, how do I get to the point where somebody says something to me and I feel injured by it, but I must not let it get to me? Because people are now saying, get on with it, don't let it get to you, don't let it hurt you. How do you make a healing process out of that.
Uncle,
That's a good
sometimes we when we chat privately, or I'm telling you about something personal, we always say the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and that's a principle in which I live by. Even when you send me a WhatsApp message, if I go the spiritual angle, you'll see my caption slogan is always "Be still, know that I'm God." Psalm 46 verse 10. I was able to get to the point where I am by a lot of hard work and going on the journey on my spiritual path with God. I said last time I was here, on my own. I come from a family that's a Christian family. I grew up, I think I was conceived even in church. The first breath I took maybe might have been in church, and I grew up going to church every Sunday. But there were journeys in life I took as a young woman, as a spinster, especially when I was overseas, far away from the African continent. And that didn't help me in a lot of ways. But I had the grace of God. And that's why I tend to sound so spiritual. I have found that you will be lucky. You'll be counted one of the lucky ones if you come from a good family background and have a good relationship with your brother, biological brother, or good relationship with your sister. And I say this because not every brother is close and not every sister is close. Just to deviate a little, and this is why I say relatives make blood, but family makes loyalty. Never make the mistake to make a relative your family if they are not loyal or committed. That's the principle I live by. So now on these journeys, I had the period when I had fear, and then I probably rely on maybe my sister here, and when I see her in the crowd, I'm receiving an award, I'll relax. I see your face, I trust you, I relax. But what about the moments when I didn't have you there or have her there?
Exactly. When
then
you're
I
all
even
alone.
begin to pee on myself.
Oops.
Do you understand? And thank God these things happened while I was still young, still under 13. But I promised myself once I strike 13, as young as I was, I don't want anything made by man, created on earth, to withhold my destiny or my confidence or my dreams. And that's when I started finding that journey. So I told my mom, I said, Mom, you're from a Catholic family. That is from the Anglican family. So I can go for catechism and to start Holy Communion. I'll be fast because I know we're working with time, like the way I'll do in the Anglican church. But how soon can I receive the Holy Communion? That was the first thing to combat my fear. And then they told me, for the Anglican church, you have to be at least 13. For the Catholic, you could be as young as 8. I knew that when I start receiving Holy Communion, I have a direct access to God now, where I can pour out all my fears and all my weaknesses before Him, and then He will tell me what to do. I think that's what God did. The next level was other little things, I didn't want to be identified by groups of friends, cliques. In school you have cliques, the happening girls, the prettiest girls, the handsome boys, the weirdos and the intelligent ones. If you identify yourself with a group that is a social group, you always have backing. Nobody can just walk up to you, bully you, talk to you anyhow. I tried to see how I could create my own group, not being part of someone's group. They will be part of my group, where I'm going to pick the nerd who is the most intelligent, and the socialite will be in my group, and the smart business savvy one still in school. And that I created a little group of like 4 people. And then we started doing things together. I made sure all of us would participate equally. It started boosting my confidence. That's in the physical. But I will still find myself running back to God. And that's how the joy, it's not something you do in a hurry or you just get like that. It's God's grace, but you have to be intentional. You have to be committed, because when you tell God, please do this for me, Daddy, and I will do this in return, make sure you keep to your promise before Him. Because God always knows most of the time He's our Father, but He loves us unconditionally, which my biological father can give me, and my mother can give me, my husband can give me. There was a time in my relationship I wanted to desire my husband even more. You walk into a restaurant and Will Smith passes, you're not turning your head. The fear that I don't feel my husband is sufficient looking physical. I had to ask God, give me that passion that all I see is Him, but I must see You in Him. Because when I see You in Him, everything is complete, everything follows. So I was intentional even when I was about to get married. My rib of my rib, my flesh of my flesh. Because my weakness is, I love handsome men, but not handsome men with empty brains. You must be a complete package.
I hope how many handsome men are here? I think
you know, and I didn't want an obnoxious man because I'm a quiet person. I don't like when men announce their wealth. I love when a man comes into a room, you sense the aura and charisma. Someone has stepped in. You don't know who he is. You don't know where he's going to, where he's coming from. That's me. All those were my weaknesses. That were fears, I guess. But with being focused on God, God gave me all I wanted in the physical, be it business, be it family.
So you were able to now manage yourself to the point, to the level you wanted yourself. I would say, where you wanted to be, right?
Because it's critical. You might not have your support system with you all the time. And when I didn't have, I got into problems.
Dr. Ambrose, how do you deal with atheists, those who don't believe in God, but claim they don't believe in God? But the things they do sometimes tend to expose the fact that they believe in God.
I wonder how one can deal with them, because they don't believe in God means they don't believe in God. You can only try to tell them or teach them the truth of the scriptures, even though they won't believe it. They tell you they are good, they don't commit sin, but they don't believe in God. So it's a difficult one, Sonny, to convince any atheist about God if he has decided that there is no God. The Bible says the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. So I only see them as fools because they don't believe in the higher being. Thank you.
Okay, right. Emotional intelligence people and Dr. Ijewere and Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede, questions for you, one by one. There's enough time, don't worry. I just want to exhaust all these things, but we haven't really dealt much with healing, even though we've been healing ourselves in the process, come to think of it, you know. So, Dr. Patrick, how, honestly, when you are consulting somebody who is already seeing death, you know, all that is required is for him to open the floodgate for the death to come in. How do you talk that person out of it? We hinted at it towards suicide just now, but I'm not looking at suicide. I'm looking at somebody who just gives up, gives no more hope.
Two perspectives, Uncle Sonny. We have those who are seriously ill, like a stage 3 cancer, and you just know that, you know, this is the end. Doctor, I'm just here because my spouse brought me in, or family brought me in, but I've already decided I'm ready to exit. From experience, when they are truly that level of illness and have already given up themselves, the soul, the spirit is gone, you more or less reassure the family that it's okay to allow him or her to transition.
Wow.
You don't even try and talk them out of it. They've already reached that point. If they've reached that point out of incorrect information, you can gather that it's due to incorrect information. Then you address the information or present an option that picks up their engine, their passion, their enthusiasm again.
So you give them hope to live again.
Yes,
sir. Madam Queenette, do you see such people around you, but they don't know they are ill, but you see that in them? Some give up about them. They just give up.
Yes. Two perspectives. I believe strongly that life is very spiritual. So everything that we deal from the realm of the spirit. I mean, a lot of people might not agree, but that's the truth, right? I've had cases like that where people, I'm not even talking about illnesses now, like they've given up on themselves, and this comes from a place. Our bodies have memories. You were talking about shaking your leg, and that was because something had happened. Sometimes we ask little children, how did they remember something that wasn't even done in their present? It's because our bodies have memories. And it is bringing to our consciousness what has happened before, right? Now, I see such people, and you have to now start digging deep to find out, where is this coming from? A lot of us who are working have childhood traumas. A lot of people walking around have traumas that have not been dealt with, and that's because sometimes we just sweep things under the carpet. Now you have to be patient enough with these people to show them, because they can't even see themselves. A lot of people can't see. So you're here saying, oh, for example, we go to church and they say, oh, you're this, you're strong. The person can't see the strength you're talking about. So you have to consciously talk to them and bring them to an awareness of who they are. So it's like, I often say that, like onions, you have to take your time to peel. And when you're peeling onions, you cry. It's really how it's very painful. So when you're dealing with people, you have to be patient, right? You're going to be frustrated. I'm talking from my own experience with certain people. You'll be frustrated, you want to give up, but you know that there's so much more. You can't just allow this person go. Even the Bible says, the good book we read says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Now, when your heart is sick, you can't function. There's nothing you can do to a man whose heart is sick. But if the man has some level of hope, like I would always say, your heart is a garden. The more we water it, the more you hear people encouraging you, like that's what I talk about, deep emotional support. The more people encourage you, the more people say, you know what, you can do this, and you have to be patient with them, holding their hands. Hope, there might just be a little window of hope, and then the person might see something in themselves, but you always must show them that there's something there. Now, for the case where they don't see at all, you have to be, I won't say that you should give up, because I know that there's always something to bring them back. We have to go back and deal with what the root of the issue. So what we do most times, we deal with the shoot. We don't go down to the root to find out, where's this coming from, so that we can capture this. But I don't think we should just let anybody go who says, except it's a terminal illness. Even people who are terminally ill sometimes don't want to go.
Dr. Salami, how do you choose the people that you give special awards to? Is it based on your so-called magic of emotional intelligence? Sorry, I used the word so-called.
It's okay.
Because from what I'm hearing today, yes, how do you choose them?
It begins with a call for nominations. So we start by calling for nominations using various media platforms. Inspiration FM is one of our partners on this. So a few months ago we had a jingle running calling for nominations, and people go to the portal and they supply the names of young people, women in leadership, senior leaders as well, across multiple organizations, also in the public sector, private and public sector. And so that's the first phase of it. And after that, a jury sits down to look at the entries. At times we get up to 2,000 plus names, so a jury sits to look at the entries, and we shortlist that the entries that we have, into coming up with a final list. And last year, Uncle Sonny, you were nominated.
Oh, by the way, I won.
A jury sat down, and of course, the jury concluded that you were eminently qualified, to be on that list last year. So once again, congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Ooh.
And it's the same process that I will continue to follow. There are times people see me say, "Oh, I'm Dr. Abiola Salami. When are you giving me an award?" I say, "Oh, well, I am not the one giving. I don't just wake up and then maybe after having a good meal, prepared by my lovely wife. Shout out to you, by the way. I know she's listening. And then just come up with names. No, we have that process. We follow that process. And at the end of the day, we come up with a list of top 100. But there's something slightly different we're doing this year, from that. This year, we're doing it per demography, because we're now being inclusive in what we do. And by inclusion, we mean we're not just working with women leaders and then working with senior leaders. So we're working with who we call emerging leaders. These are young people. We're working with emerging leaders. So we have something for emerging leaders. We have something for women in leadership. And of course, we have something for senior leaders as well. So it's more inclusive this year than last year.
Okay. All right. Right. Somebody has just joined us. Ikenna Michael. You're welcome. But Mrs. Oloyede, I'm back to you. Thank you for being so patient, because she had a busy day today as well. Same with Nkem. Thank you all. Now, let me find out from Mrs. Oloyede. In dealing with people, when people say hurtful things, how do you dissuade them from dwelling along that negative line? That question for you, the same question will go to Dr. Ambrose Opara as well. Yes, Mrs. Oloyede.
When people say hurtful things,
yes,
how do you dissuade them from dwelling on those words?
yes, because somebody will get hurt. That's why it's hurtful.
Well, I think the first thing is that you want to ask yourself whether the words that are being said to you actually describe you. Is that me?
Okay.
Am I really that kind of person? Because you see, if you give people an opportunity, they will say all sorts of things about you, some pleasant, some unpleasant. But what do you say about you? So if somebody says that, if somebody says something that is hurtful to you, sometimes you also need to look at the person who is speaking and ask yourself,
is the person better than you?
Maybe what right? What right, yes, does that person have to say such things?
Okay.
And then if you go a little bit further, you now ask yourself, what kind of situation is that person in that would make them say such things? Obviously, something is wrong with them. See, when you keep on focusing the attention on yourself, then you make it become much more than it is. But if you deflect it, and you ask a few other questions, sometimes you begin to realize that is the other person that is saying the hurtful things that has a problem. Somebody says that hurt people hurt. So like if you are hurt, and you then hurt people as a result, all you're doing actually is just hurting yourself more. You're not necessarily hurting the receiver of whatever negative comment was made. So I'm not sure that anybody actually has the right to say hurtful things. You can be truthful. You can say something that is true, but you can also say it in a diplomatic way.
So it doesn't have to hurt.
You don't have to be. Yes, you don't have to hurt. You don't have to be. You don't have to speak with venom. You can. After all, parents also know how to correct their children in love. Everything doesn't have to be, a dirty slap or abuse. So there are ways of doing these things. And you remember last time I spoke about hopeful communication. This is really where it comes in. So if you dwell on it, then as they say, it will enter body. There's no need for it to enter body
at all. You don't agree. Okay, Dr. Ambrose.
Yes, Ms. Oloyede has said everything. First, when somebody says hurtful things to you, I always say this: just ignore them, because if you do not, it becomes poisonous to you. Like I told you some time ago, I said, when you are angry because somebody says something to you, even that person who said it is not even bothered about you. It's like someone taking poison and is expecting that person to die. You are the one that is hurting.
So you're the one that will die.
And you're the one that will die. So at best, what you need to do is just ignore, and that is it.
Okay, all right. Okay, here we are. We're back to you because healing. We talked about toxicity. Hello. Somebody was saying something. Okay, healing. How do you heal from all that we've discussed so far? How does one heal? It looks like first the language must be decent, accommodating, friendly, warm, and things like that. How do you heal?
Uncle Sunny, first of all, thank you so much Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I say this 3 times because,
amen.
you know, I was away from Nigeria for years. I've always loved you. I came back, I was worried and scared at a point that I might not meet you because there were 8 people I was to see and 6 of them were all dead already.
Oh.
So I went to their offices blindly only to be told, sorry, who you're coming to see is no more. I might break down in any point of this conversation as I end this, but I'm also grateful to God that you specifically chose divinely chosen people by God to be on this platform. All our guests on this show are awesome. Every contribution they've made is on point. Because I'm strong in the Lord. I didn't even know I would still make it today. So I was saying, how would this show go on with conveying what we intend to say? I'll start with Dr. Jerry, and I'll try to be brief. You asked him a question, and he talked about when people are fed up and all that, they can give up if there's no hope. They've made up their mind, blah, blah, blah. I would always go back to my spirituality and personal experience. I have a loving mother created to save the world quickly, and at a point in her life she felt, I have given the best in the medical field, but I'm not receiving the best in my country, Nigeria, and I'm done. I've been used as a guinea pig in all my health issues, and I'm done. And I asked her, what is your next plan, Mommy? Do you still intend to just keep trying with us through physiotherapy and all that? She says, well, if God says it'll be, but physically, I'm done. Spiritually, I'm not. When she gave up the ghost, which was not planned for, because of the lapses of the medical industry here, which is a disappointment, she had told me she was done.
It's okay. It's okay. All right. Dr.
So I'll still hang on. Then we go to Queenette.
It's okay.
Queenette says, someone has to motivate you and encourage you. She's right. If she wasn't done, the encouragement would have worked. But she was personally done because she had gone through so much. She's right.